Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking all the best cloak accessories in Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. So this is a pretty easily forgotten piece of armor because they don't always provide the most beneficial effects, but I'll be going over all of them and ranking them because there is some that are very powerful. And the first one we got is the Cinder Moth Cloak. So what this does is if you get attacked within 2 meters, you can apply burned on the target. It is a 12 dexterity saving throw, so they have to fail that in order to get the burning. And the burning, it is a condition that applies a 1d4 of fire damage, and it's only for 2 turns. So at the very minimum, you don't apply it or you get 2 damage, and at the very maximum, you get 8 damage. Not the worst cloak in the game. It's just not really super effective and very likely that the target's going to resist the saving throws. So I'll throw it in the B tier there because it isn't the worst. Being able to give damage to an enemy on your when it's not your turn is pretty huge, and it doesn't use a reaction, so that's another nice benefit to it. And you can kind of build around fire if you like, so that gives you a bit of role play ability too. But next we got the Cloak of Cunning Broom. So with this one, when the wearer disengages, they create a fog cloud 2-meter radius around the area, which lasts for 1 turn. I feel like this is good on like if you're disengaging a lot, like if you're doing like an honor mode run, getting the fog cloud can be quite useful. But I also feel like there is better options for your cloak if you want to play that route. And also like you could just play as a Dark Urge and get yourself a free invisibility from your cloak. I want to say this is probably about C tier. If you do use disengage often, it could be upwards of 8 S tier, but it's only one turn and the fog cloud's only 2 feet, so not a huge benefit. And you can also apply a fog cloud yourself of a larger variety and then also hide in that too. So yeah, next we got a funny one with the reverse rain cloak. This is kind of like a failure prize you get from the genie in Act 3. What this does is it applies wet to you at all times, meaning you're resistant to fire damage, woo, but also you're vulnerable to lightning and cold damage, which are pretty common. So I would say this is actually D tier. Being wet is not something you want. It's something you want to apply to targets, but you don't want it yourself because that just means you're going to take double damage from 2 different sources. Although fire damage is probably quite common, there's better ways to resist fire damage than to apply a weakness to 2 other damage types to yourself. So yeah, I don't think that this one's really that great. Also, if you get chilled by any chance and get wet, then you freeze. So I don't really think this is that good. But next we have a rock star, and I like to use this one quite frequently. It's the Cloak of Protection. It gives a +1 to armor class and a +1 to saving throws. This can work on every single build because everyone typically wants to have a higher armor class, and this is an easy way to apply it without much drawback. So I would say that this is a very solid one because it gives you the chance to save on spells, and also gives you makes it harder for the enemy to hit you. So yeah, this is a really great one. Definitely deserving of S tier or even A tier. Some people may think it's like an A tier, but compared to a lot of these other cloaks, +1 armor class, +1 saving throws, that is quite nice. So we'll go with the S tier there for that one. Next, we got the Thunder Skin Cloak. Now, this is typically going to be one that you'd use on a reverberation build, because when a creature with the reverberation condition deals damage to the wearer, the creature needs to make a Constitution saving throw or become dazed. And with dazed, they have a weakness to, or they have disadvantage on Wisdom saving throws, so you can do things like hold person and have those hit at a much higher chance. So it is a 13 difficulty challenge Constitution saving throw. And then they also can't take reactions when they're dazed alongside that disadvantage on wisdom saving throws. And then they also lose the dexterity bonus to their armor class. So dazing the target's actually really nice. This goes really well on a reverberation build, but if you're not going reverberation, this does absolutely nothing. I want to put in the B tier though, because it is really good on a reverberation build, because dazed is such a great Dazed is such a great condition to have, because then you can apply hold person so much easier and then critical hit them to death. So I would say, yeah, B tier. Next, we got the Cloak of Elemental Absorption. This is a funky one. So once per short rest, take half damage from the next elemental attack targeting you, and then you can deal an additional 1d6 of that damage type on your next attack. That is actually quite good. This one is also one that you can get fairly early on, the Cloak of Elemental Absorption. It's Act 2, so you can get to there in Moonrise Towers and get this item. This is pretty solid. I would say it's probably about A tier, because you can absorb damage, so it's going to reduce the amount of damage that you're taking, but also give you a bit more damage with the adding that 1d6 of that damage type to your next attack roll. So next damage roll. That's pretty good. I would have to say that's about A tier. Taking half damage is nice on its own, but even being able to deal more damage with the melee attack. So it's typically going to be used mostly by like martial classes, but still gives them an extra layer of defense. So for that, yeah, A tier. Next, we got the Vivacious Cloak. So this is interesting because it gives you 8 temporary health points for 4 turns after casting a spell in melee. So if you're a Warlock Fiend, you're already going to have temporary health. You can't get that. If you got Armor of Agathis, you can't get that. It's only, or even if you got the Necrotic, or the Necromancy spell False Life with extra 7 health, you can't get this one. But for those that don't, you can get that extra 7 health, or 8 health, and it lasts for 4 turns. Not bad, but just not fantastic. Being able to get extra health is actually pretty good. I'm going to put it in a B tier, probably right around there in a B tier. Because again, it's not going to be super useful. Obviously, if you don't cast spells, don't use this, but it gives an extra bit of tankiness to like a cleric or any type of your caster. So if you don't have anyone else to give this to, you can take it for a caster. And it's also gone in Act 2, so you get it pretty early on. Next, we got the Face Melter Cloak. So or Flesh Melter Cloak. So this is also in Act 2, the Healing House. And whenever a creature deals a melee attack to damage, or melee attack to the wearer, they take 1d4 of acid damage. I think it's a little bit better than the Flame Moth Cloak, because that one you have to do a dexterity saving throw that's really easy to resist, and then it's damage on their next turn, whereas this is damage right away. Acid damage, I'm going to put it in the A tier because you can actually build up off of acid damage. There's so many ways to add acid damage, and then there's lots of items that can make like clouds of acid damage. So yeah, it's a pretty solid cloak, I would say. Could probably be B tier. Yeah, I'll put it in the A tier for now. It's good on a class that gets hit often because it just adds an extra damage rider to when it's not your turn, getting hit, taking damage. Or if you spring opportunity attacks, like if you're an Abjuration Wizard doing that shenanigans, you can throw this on too. But next we got ourselves the Cloak, or the Wave Mother's Cloak. So this is during combat, once per turn, the cloak gives you the water layer protection, which is surprisingly the same as the Genie Cloak. So it gives you the wet condition, but it's called water layer protection. So this gives you the ability to resist fire damage and be prevented from getting burned. But as a result, you're also vulnerable to lightning and cold damage. And this is only during combat. So yeah, I would have to say this is also D tier, F tier. You don't want to be wet typically, unless you're going against just pure fire damage. But then again, you never know when a lightning spell may come out, so you don't want to get that double damage. I would say D tier for that. But next we got a heavy hitter. We got the Deathstalker Mantle. So this is exclusive to the Dark Urge playthrough, and you can actually get this extremely early on. This is one of the first items you get, literally after like your first long rest after visiting Alfira the Bard. Yeah, no spoilers there, but S tier. What this does, so once per turn when you kill an enemy, once per turn, that's also really a huge moment, or a huge thing about this. So once you kill a target, you become invisible for 2 turns. That's really good. And it's every time you kill a target. So if you kill a target 1 turn, you become invisible, you get advantage on your next attack roll, and enemies get disadvantage against you. And then you can go kill another target, you get that again, go kill another and it's so on and so on. Once per turn, this is very powerful and probably the best cloak in the game. Easily. It's just so useful in a variety of situations. If you're a rogue, that gives you sneak attacks. If you're any other class, that gives you disadvantage on the attack rolls against you and advantage on your attack rolls, which really everyone can benefit from. So yeah, S tier for the Deathstalker Mantle. This is seriously so powerful, and I could talk about it all day, but I won't. There's so many uses for it. But next we got ourselves the Cloak of Displacement. So this is an interesting one. It gives you displacement. So at the beginning of the wearer's turn, the cloak activates, granting enemies disadvantage on attack rolls, and this will last until you take damage. This is available in Act 3, so it's not till late in the game that you get this, but that's actually also really good. It's good on your squishier characters because it'll give disadvantage on all attack rolls, so targets will be much less likely to hit them. I want to put it up in the S tier as well. This is one that I underrated for a while until I threw it on Gale and realized that Gale survives when he has something like this. Giving disadvantage on attack rolls just means you're much more likely to succeed on them because it makes them roll 2 die and take the lower results. So disadvantage on attack rolls is one of the best things you can apply to a target, and getting that every single turn is massive. So yeah, I would have to say that the Cloak of Displacement is S tier as well. Next, we got the Derivation Cloak. So this gives you the Deadly Derivation. When you poison a foe, heal yourself for 1d4 hit points. Poisoning a target is hard. There are items that will apply poison or a chance to apply poison when you deal poison damage, but the act of actually poisoning someone is quite hard to accomplish. So, as nice as the 1d4 health is, and as nice as you can build around this, like if you got a cloud kill and you got the item that potentially can, if you get the gloves that gives the poison to the targets that you deal with poison damage, then this could potentially heal you for quite a bit. But even still, 1d4 healing, I might just put in the C tier because poison damage 1 sucks, worst damage type in the game because everything resists it. And the spells, Cloud Kill is really the only spell, and by that point, most people are taking other spells. Where this could shine is on like a Necromancer build if you use Cloud Kill because it won't hurt your undead. Then this could be somewhat beneficial, but I don't think it's as good as some of the other cloaks, so I'm going to put it into the C tier. But next, we got ourselves the Mantle of the Holy Warrior. So this is a funky one because it gives you a level 3 spell, Crusader's Mantle, which you can get from being a War Cleric, you can get from being a level 9 Paladin, you can get that from being a Bard and choosing it as your magical secrets. I think that this one is okay. Getting extra Crusader Mantle for free is nice because I hate using that spell because it uses a level 3 spell slot. But without it, you get yourself an additional 1d4 of radiant damage. So it's okay. I would probably put in B tier because there's so many better cloaks, especially at the very rare level. Crusader's Mantle is just fair. So yeah, B tier to C tier. It depends if you like Crusader's Mantle or not. You also have to hold a concentration on it. So but we also have some other really good ones here with the Nymph Cloak. So this is actually from Baldur's Gate 2 as well. So a nice little throwback here. This gives us a free Dominate Person spell, once per long rest, level 5 spell. That's not bad. I think that it's something that could be beneficial, but I'm also just going to put it in the B tier. As a level 5 spell for free from an item, that's quite nice. It's once per long rest though, so that's one thing about it. And Dominate Person has to land and connect to be able to be effective. And yeah, it is not always the greatest spell, so I'm going to put in the B tier. You might find some use for it on specific builds, but if you want Dominate Person, just take it as a spell on a wizard or a sorcerer or something. So yeah, that's my thoughts. But next we got the Cloak of the Weave. So this gives us the Arcane Enhancement, +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls, this being the best one for any mage. And also gives you Absorb Elements, so absorb elemental damage once per short rest, take half damage from the next physical attack, and deal an additional 1d6. So basically everything that the Cloak of Elemental Absorption does, but giving you also +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. This is easily S tier. All the Weave items, the Garb of the Weave, the Cloak of the Weave, and the Hood of the Weave are all really good, +2 spell save DC on the Hood. Yeah, I'd have to say this is definitely S tier. It's super useful. And being able to take half half magic damage and then also apply some, that's pretty good on a Bard. But finally, we got ourselves the Shade Slayer Cloak. So, stealthy critical. While hiding, only while hiding, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. So, 5% more likely to hit a critical hit. I'd say it's A tier. Not the best cloak in the game, but still, that's quite nice to be able to lower the chance that you need to hit a critical hit. And it's while hiding, so typically a rogue is going to tick that off. So I would have to say it's A tier. Not the best cloak, but still pretty decent. So there it is. There's all the best cloaks ranked in Baldur's Gate 3. Deathstalker Mantle and the Cloak of Protection being my 2 favorites, but even the Cloak of Displacement and the Cloak of the Weave are also very, very powerful. So there it is. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, let me know what type of tier list you would like to see next. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button below, and I'll see you all in the next video.